Hello and good morning friends, welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, as you know that from time to time, catering to your needs, we bring for you different topics, different subjects so that it becomes easier for you to get in-depth knowledge on those topics. Dear friends, in this session today, we would be discussing on a play, The Way of the World by William Congreve. And for this, we have again with us in our studios, Dr. Anand Prakash. Dr. Anand Prakash is a retired professor from Department of English, University of Delhi. And as I always say, his lectures enlighten us as well as they give us a deep perspective towards the life. So without wasting any time, I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Anand Prakash. Dr. Prakash, welcome to the EduSet lecture.
Thanks, Geetika, and welcome viewers. Today's topic, as has been announced by Ms. Geetika, is William Congreve's The Way of the World. It's a play that was written in the last years of the 17th century, and William Congreve, a major writer of the Restoration period, says in this play something that is unprecedented in the history of English literature. For instance, he talks about the equality of men and women in the matrimonial relationship, and he sets particular terms for both the man and the woman. And with Congreve, comedy in English literature has come a long way. It starts with, in the form in which we understand the term, with Shakespeare, who wrote in those days, in the 1590s and later, what came to be called romantic comedies, and also Ben Jonson, who wrote comedy of humor. So that comic writing, which started with these two giants of English literature around the turn of the century, has come into its own when Restoration period occurs. Of course, there are a large number of developments happening in this period, in this interregnum of 80 or 90 years, and comedy has changed its appearance almost entirely. In those days, it had a name that came from either romantic or from humors. But here is a comedy which doesn't require any adjective, doesn't require any epithet. It's a comic writing, and in fact, in the previous years, to the one that we are discussing today, an attitudinal change could be seen. For instance, the vision was comic, and the vision of the whole age was comic. And in fact, it can be said that in the last years of the 17th century, the age of comedy had come into its own, and it had established itself as a unique, as a distinct genre. So, what is the title? What does the title signify here? It's a title, in the tradition of Shakespeare. For instance, As You Like It and Twelfth Night and this and that. And here the writer, William Congreve, says, that he's talking about the way of the world. The way, that the world has adopted at that time to live, at that time to experience, at that time to think. And he accepts it comically, constructively and positively, because if life asserts itself in a particular manner, then it should not say no and can't say no. You don't have to, see life. You don't have to look at life through the prism of some moral structure, some ideological structure. You just take life as it is asserting itself in the comic mode. So that seems to be the attitude of this writer, and this is reflected quite clearly in the title, The Way of the World. He accepts it. He wants to register it in his comedies. He would also like to comment upon it. He may approve of it. He might raise some questions, but then he accepts the development as it came to him, as it came to the people surrounding him. So that's what one can say about The Way of the World. It says a lot, but only generally, only in the sense that you can interpret the way the world has come into its own, and that way you have to define it, in fact. So the writer is defining this way of the world on his own, but he would leave this to the spectator also, to have his or her view of the world, that one is surrounded by. So I find it a very democratic title. It's a title where we also have an involvement as citizens, and we can look at ourselves and say, well, this is what life is. This is how we have come into this kind of a situation, and we would like to accept it as such. Now, there are a few things that I would like to say directly about this text that we are doing. Let's have a look at the number of characters, men and women, here as opposed to the sex ratio in the comedies of the earlier era. We have a large number of men. For instance, Fainall is there, Mirabell is there, Witwoud is there, Petulant is there, Wilful Witwoud is there, another Witwoud is there, Whitwell. So how many men? I think 6 men here. Viewers, can you anticipate how many women would be there? In the sense that generally in comedies there were women. In tragedies there were very few women earlier, but now you see there are 6 men, and how many women? Lady Wishfort, Mrs. Millamant, Mrs. Marwood, Mrs. Fainall, Foible, Mincing. So there are once again 6 women here, and the equal number. What does it suggest? It suggests that there is a kind of equality that has now come up in the meantime between men and women. Their presence is equal, and their interaction also has increased and deepened meanwhile. So this is the kind of comedy where women will be in equal measure, in equal proportion, and they would now talk more than they did. They gave an occasion to. They got an occasion to talk, and that is a welcome development, because when women talk, then they talk about their existence, their experiences, their attitude towards men, their attitude towards family, their attitude toward other issues that they confront. So the ratio has increased, and this ratio between men and women is a healthy development, I would call it. And then I'm struck by the names of the characters. Names were not as important earlier. Any name would do. In fact, in the folk tales of the earlier plays, the names were given by tradition. But here, the writer is consciously thinking of certain men and women according to their traits, according to their mental structures, according to their way of thinking. So you can anticipate as to what the man with a particular name or a woman with a particular name would say and would practice in life. For instance, the Fainall name, there is Mr. Fainall and there is Mrs. Fainall. And Mr. Fainall and Mrs. Fainall, do they pretend all the time? Do they feign? Are they pretenders? Are they superficial people? Do they talk more and mean less? Well, or the question gets raised in the middle of the play, because the name borne by these two characters, Mr. and Mrs. Fainall, is a name that suggests something, a trait of behavior. So Fainall, which means that this person and his wife, both of them would be saying something and meaning something else, and that the consistency of behavior also would be missing, because they are not their real selves. They look around and then they say things, and they say things in such a manner that they should not be caught. So if there are such men and women who don't have much to say, and who always pretend to say something else than they mean, then it means that some kind of artificiality has entered into the domain of culture. These men and women are there. They are self-conscious. They do not talk in genuine sense. They talk what is required of them by others, and what they would like others to know about them. So that's what this name suggests. So Fainall and Mrs. Fainall. What about Mirabell? Mirabell is not exactly as directly available as the other names, but then there is some kind of an assertion about him. He's a clear person. He's a person with some kind of an attitude and some kind of behavior and outlook. Then there is Witwoud. Now this word wit is important. It had emerged in the early part of the 17th century, and it was associated then with metaphysical poetry, metaphysical wit, for instance. And what here would the name Witwoud mean? Witwoud means that somebody wants to be witty, and witty not in the sense of giving the turn of the phrase, using the word intelligently. Wit in the sense that somebody would be aware of what one is saying, one would be conscious, one would be equipped with what is called the rational faculty. he or she would always be thinking about their own ways of life, and they would impress people by their linguistic skills, by their mental agility, by the quality of their thought, and they would not only say things wittily, they also would like to be appreciated as wits of the day. And when I say wits, then the witty people, and the word wit has the first letter as the capital letter. And in all the writings at that time, I was going through some of the comments by William Congreve on art and literature in his own time, and wherever the word wit occurred, it had a capital W to begin. So you have witwood, a person who would like to be witty, would like to be appreciated as a wit, as an intelligent person. And the other name is petulant. Petulant, somebody who doesn't have any control over his his mood, and he can be very soon annoying. He can very soon be angry. He can lose temper, and he's petulant. Always ready, to express his sense of anger. Not that he does so, but his name suggests, that this person would be impatient with talking with others. What is the description of these two characters that I have just now named, witwood and petulant? Now this particular duo that they are mentioned together in the play, these people are supposed to be the followers of Mrs. Millamant. What does follower mean? Does she have a sect? Does she have a doctrine that she is popularizing and they are following her? Not at all. What followers here means that these people are following her, chasing her, pursuing her, want to get some kind of a favor from her. They might think of falling in love with her, because witty people always would like to attract the attention of intelligent, beautiful women, and Millamant is a beautiful woman, so they would like to follow her. So in so many ways, these people are interested in getting more and more acquainted with, familiar with her, and that's what they will enjoy. Not only enjoy, in fact, they will go and tell their friends that they know this lady intimately, and because of this, their importance in society is supposed to be increased. So you have these characters. I am also struck by the other idea when I think of this particular, interest of these two men in a woman, and that is that people have a lot of time to spend on, making relationships. So they are always, out in the open. They are there, on the street. They are there in the neighborhood. They attend parties. They visit one another, and when they do so, their sole purpose is to acquaint themselves with others, familiarize themselves with others, and establish a kind of a relationship. So this is a whole-time job. This is a whole-time business, that these people pursue, that they want to strike relationships with people in general and with beautiful women in particular. And Millamant is a very attractive person, and a young, attractive woman with wit also in her, because of which, a witty, intelligent woman is a deadly combination so far as, the restoration comedy is concerned, and Mrs. Millamant is supposed to be one of the best in this particular, description. Then you have Witwood. I already, told you about Witwood, but then there is another Witwood, and he is called Sir Wilful Witwood. How come that one person who is a brother is called Witwood and the other is called Sir Wilful Witwood? Many implications. One implication is that in the family, one person was born as closer to the father, and maybe was also elderly, slightly elderly. That is, and there is a younger brother. The other is that he was born from a different woman, so which means the father had one woman and then the other, and the first one would be Sir Wilful Witwood, and the younger would be just Witwood. This is the kind of arrangement that families had in the Elizabethan and later periods, that the elder brother would always get the sole importance. In any case, what does Wilful Witwood mean? It's a double kind of an adjective. Witwood means he wants to be witty, wants to be known as witty. And what is Wilful Witwood? Which means that he is willing to establish himself, and is always willful. He is taking care to press upon others that he is different from others. He belongs to a different class. So he has to establish his superiority before the people, so that people take note of him and give him undue importance. So you have Sir Wilful Witwood, and you have another half brother who is called Witwood. And then you have a servant, and what should be a better name for a servant than Waitwell? he waits really well upon the master, the mistress, or upon the guests who come, and he has to entertain them, he has to receive them, he has to offer his services to them. So his name is Wait Well. So we have Fainall, we have Mirabell, we have Witwoud, we have Petulant, we have Sir Wilful Witwoud, we have Witwoud, the nephew, and we have Wait Well. These are the men. Imagine that none of them is a king or a prince, and they all seem to belong to more or less the same section that has its members as equals, which means that now literature is catering to the cultural, emotional requirements of a specific section. That section which has to show off to others, which has to move around in fashionable circles, and that this fashionable circle will be allowing people to mix up with one another. They'll take liberties with one another, but they will always be very formal and somewhat pretending to be admirable. Then coming to women, let's look at their names also. One lady who's quite rich in this company, her name is Lady Wishfort. What does Wishfort mean? Well, she has a large number of wishes. She is a lady, and if a lady has wishes, those wishes have to be fulfilled because she is an influential person. Whether her wishes will be fulfilled or not is the question here. And because she is middle-aged and she still has expectations of attention from others, so she is going to make a very good comic figure. A woman who is past her age, and yet she wants to be known as a young person, a beautiful, attractive woman, and she wants that people should approach her in terms of love also. And since we have a lover, in Mirabell, I didn't mention this earlier, but Mirabell is the main lover in the play, and Lady Wishfort has the history of being loved by him once, and but Mirabell was not interested in her, even though she was rich. If he had married her, then he would have got a lot of money and influence. So there was this option before the lover that he could, court this woman. He could show the world, that he is in love with her. And if he married her, then he would get all the money. So, money came because the person was able to establish this kind of a relationship. But he has somehow veered away from her, which means that the lady is very unhappy with him, and she wants that this person is discarded by everybody else. So she has already become an enemy to Mirabell. And see, the twist is that this man is in love with Lady Wishfort's niece, who's young and who is beautiful, and I talked about her earlier. She's Mrs. Millamant. I was also wondering as to why Millamant is called Mrs. Millamant. Was she married earlier? She may have been partly, or she might have been betrothed, or maybe it was the custom at that time that women would be called Mrs. Something or the other. You have Mrs. Fainall, but she's married. Servants are not addressed as Mrs. or Miss. But then, so far as Millamant is concerned, she is a Mrs. Millamant, but she is a niece, and there is no direct indication that she has been married. But anyway, this is the question of address. Lady Wishfort would not like her niece to get married to Mirabell, her ex-lover. She thinks that he was her lover, so she would not like that. But can one stop the lovers in the latter half of the 17th century from marrying women or men of their choice? Good question, because the times have changed. Now marriages are not decided by families. There is dowry. There is money involved in the transaction of marriage, but that money at this time is available to a large number of people. So you choose the rich person, and that is your prerogative as a man or a woman. And if somebody has to reject, then that person has to bear the consequences also. So you have dowry, but that kind of pressure which accompanied the birth, that pressure is weakened, if not completely disappeared. So you have Lady Wishfort. She has large number of wishes, they can't be fulfilled, but then she can exert quite a lot because she is rich. Then you have Mrs. Millamant. I have already commented about her. She is a niece of Lady Wishfort. She is in love with Mirabell. She doesn't show her love as clearly as Mirabell does, partly because William Congreve, the writer, recognizes the woman's strength in being coy. She is coy, but she knows her mind, so she is only deliberately coy. Deliberately she is somewhat shy, but then when it comes to telling her point, then she can be razor sharp in her wit. So she has mind and she knows what she wants, and therefore Millamant will have a particular kind of importance in this play. Then you have Mrs. Marwood. Mrs. Marwood is an enemy to the forest, to the wood. What does it mean? Well, it's a very interesting name, Mrs. Marwood. She'll mar, she'll destroy, she will somehow remove the wood or property or land. These are the names. Definitely, it's a slightly negative name, but this is more mischievous than negative. And people start laughing, that there's a lady who is called Mrs. Marwood. She is friend to Fainall and likes Mirabell. So how many women will like Mirabell? Lady Wishfort likes him. Mrs. Fainall also would like to be in his company, and Mrs. Marwood is particularly interested in Mirabell. So if one is a witty person, one is a young person, it doesn't matter whether one is rich or not at that time. Women will fall for him, particularly in the Restoration period. And this is the example, as I said, of Restoration comedy. Then you have Mrs. Fainall, already married to Mr. Fainall. She is daughter to Lady Wishfort and wife to Fainall, and formerly she was a friend to Mirabell. So she also has been a friend to Mirabell. Mirabell must be really a very attractive man, very handsome and talking well. He must be a darling of all the women in the company, and therefore all women once earlier thought of being close to him, if not getting married to him directly. So there are 4 women, and all the 4 women have some kind of a history of relationship with Mirabell. And one of them will succeed, because that is quite clear. The writer says it in the account of the characters in the beginning itself, that Millamant is in love with him, and that she is going to get him as her husband. Not by any kind of claim, but because Mirabell himself is attracted towards her. Then you have Foible, a woman, to Lady Wishfort. She is a servant. But then these servants enjoy some kind of equality with their mistresses, and Foible plays a very important part in the schemes that Lady Wishfort invents for her and invents for others. It's a different matter that these servants, like Foible, they can also be approached by the other camp, the camp other than that of the master or the mistress, and Foible plays that way a double kind of a role that is given to her by her mistress, and another role that is given to her by the adversary of the mistress. And therein lies the fun of the play, that one doesn't know how characters are going to finally work out their strategies in their individual manner, or as the strategies have been planned for them by their masters. And then you have another woman. Foible is once again quite meaningful. It's something that is imaginary. It's something that is deceptive, cheating, telling others, double-edged. All these words have some kind of an association with Foible. And then the last woman of importance in the play is Mincing, and she minces words. She sometimes mixes words. Sometimes she uses one word in the sense of another, and that also creates a kind of comedy. So I've been quite elaborate in commenting on the names of the people, but meanwhile I was also telling you indirectly about the atmosphere that such characters will create for the spectators, for the audience at large. And the atmosphere is that of gaiety, it is that of celebration, it is that of wit. It is that of time well spent. When you spend time, buy a ticket and go to the theater and spend time there, then your job is to get your money's worth. My job, if I go as an audience to watch a play, is to get my money's worth, and at the same time I should be, apart from watching the play as an audience, I should also be meeting up others. So it's a cultural place. So it's a meeting place for friends and neighbors. And there, if you have spent 4 or 5 hours in the playhouse, then you come back, and all through the day, all through the evening, and the next morning, you will be discussing what you saw and whom you met at the play. So it becomes a kind of cultural activity that finally will be used for interacting further with the people in the neighborhood and compete with them. So viewers, this is what these characters mean, and this is how this play is woven around a particular group of people, and in that lies the interest of this play. I think I should stop here. Thank you. Well, in this lecture, I talk about the characters in William Congreve's The Way of the World from a slightly different angle. And that angle is, I'll take up some points, and in the light of these points, I'll be helping the audience, the viewers, interpret the play in a specific manner. So now, the first point that I discuss, is regarding the twists and turns in the relationships of the characters. The characters in the play, they have not just one single relationship with another character. They have a large number of relationships, and within the relationship there is a kind of a twist and turn. Sometimes one is in love with a character, second time one has left an impression of bitterness, the third time one is once again using the other character as some kind of a pawn, and it goes on like this. So with every scene, with every situation in the play, the effect, the strategy, etc. changes, and with that change, the play becomes more and more interesting. So for instance, Mirabell in the beginning is a young, attractive, handsome man with not many means of livelihood at that time. He is a middle class individual, but then he is the apple of people's eye because he has those qualities of wit. He is an example of handsomeness and wit, handsomeness and intelligence, and it is this kind of a quality that sets him apart in the play. So in his life there are going to be a large number of changes, and one change that has occurred particularly in the play immediately after the play opens is that he has been attracted towards a lady, Mrs. Millamant, because he finds her equal in intelligence. And this woman may be shy, this woman may be coy, but at the same time she knows her mind, and this is something rare in the Restoration period, that people have a mind of their own. At that time, there were fashions, and everybody had to follow the fashion. The fashions were created by some people somewhere else, and those fashions, then followed by many others. In fact, this is the period, Restoration is the period when people start talking about the fashions in general. They talk about the market. They talk about what is available there. They talk about what is popular there. So popularity and fashionable, ideas. It is these, that rule the roost at that time, and therefore Mirabell finds every new situation a challenge for him. And for this reason, because he takes the challenge very seriously and very effectively, he is able to face it. Therefore, he attracts attention of a large number of ladies. And one person with whom he is going to be consistent is the person called Millamant. And he meets her, and when they talk with each other, a kind of energy is generated. There is a kind of magnetism, between the two. She feels attracted towards him, and he feels attracted towards her. And then they start a conversation in which words and phrases assume a new kind of a meaning. And this is what the fun is there in the play. The play is known for its wit, for its witty repartee, for its suggestive language. Sometimes, the person is saying something very simple, but soon you realize that he is showing his interest in the woman. When the woman answers, then she reacts to him very sharply, but then she also has some kind of an idea that suggests, that she wants to be near him. And there are, of course, breaks in the relationship. There are times when the woman is confused. And there are times, when pressure is built upon Mirabel, the man, so that he can marry someone else for money. And if he, loses that other person and Millamant doesn't agree to marry him, then he will be in the doldrums. So changes in the situation occur at the level of personal liking and disliking. And they also occur at the level of fortunes, whether one is going to get the money enough for oneself or whether one will not get that kind of money. So twists and turns, it is these which are the crux of this play. And as we watch the play further, we realize that in these lies actually the challenge of living successfully and meaningfully. The two being, of course, complementary but not the same. Now, one thing that draws our attention in the play is that so far as the characters who are central in their concern are just these two, Mirabel and Millamant. And every other character thinks about them either negatively or positively. There are characters, who help them directly or indirectly, and there are others, who work to their disadvantage. And if they work to their disadvantage or if they work to their advantage, in both cases, we know that the play is revolving around these two characters. And what are the preoccupations of these two characters? That their preoccupation is they have to build a relationship, and they have to get solid foundations on which to put this relationship. So the whole play is about relationships of this kind in matrimony, in friendship, in social equality, and in individual kind of what can be called a fencing match. You should always be lively. You should always be playful. And if you are playful and the other person is equally playful, then it adds spice to life. And since it's a comedy, and it's a comedy in which this kind of a beauty, this kind of a harmony is required. Therefore, these two characters will be at the center of all the action that is there. So twists and turns are there, and then the action revolves around just two characters. It's not a hero-heroine kind of a thing, because others are equally involved, and in some cases you realize that the lines assigned to these two characters may not be lines which are more than are given to others, but then when other people talk and they plot and they scheme and they fight with one another and they fight on these people, over these people, in all the cases the focus is on Mirabel and Millamant. So that way the play belongs to these two people in all virtual terms. Then what kind of a love is this? I talked about the action revolving around them and they are lovers. So one should also ask this question from oneself: what kind of a love is there between Mirabel and Millamant? This is an important question. This is an important question in India in the 20th century and today. People do not go by orthodox views. They don't go by strict codes of morality, strict codes of matrimony, strict codes of behavior in general also. So that was the case in the 17th century and later in England also, that people started interpreting their life in terms of ideas, in terms of their values. So in a way, when love is occurring as a theme in this play in the latter part of the 17th century, then one has to find out as to what exactly love is. Is love some kind of an exploitative affair where one has to take advantage of a woman, somehow entice her, attract her, entrap her, and then to exploit her? Is that the case? That has always been the case, under patriarchy, that women are put into some kind of a trap, and after that they are exploited. So and that is not love. Maybe there is a kind of a love in the beginning when one has to draw the attention of the woman, but as soon as the attention is drawn and the man is successful in conquering her, in capturing the woman, then he loses all interest in her, and then love evaporates. So what kind of a love is the author talking about in this play? In that part of English history, and this question is important. this question is problematized in the beginning. Love or any kind of relationship that finally leads to marriage is going to be a relationship which will be decided crucially by money. That is what the case is, or by influence, social influence. So will these people who are involved in this drama be able to interpret love differently than through the power of money or through this pressure of the society? This is the question that we all the time face, and then we realize that as times are changing, as situation is evolving, people are getting somewhat bored of, somewhat impatient with the existing parameters, and they want to explore new avenues of fulfillment. And one of the avenues of fulfillment is love which is genuine. So love has to be genuine, it has to be authentic, it has to be based on some kind of a respect for one another and a kind of parity at the level of mind. In fact, I'll discuss it later towards the end of the discussion. At the moment I say that it is important that the man and woman are placed on level of on the level of social equality, and at the same time the man and woman should also be mentally, rationally, psychologically compatible with one another. So if they are intelligent and if they have the same kind of social status, then there is a chance that they will understand each other better, they will respect each other better. But there is something more to it, and that is what the play explores. And the writer is giving a chance to Mirabel and Velament to argue, to discuss, to fight. And through argument and fight, they can evolve an equation that will be lasting, and that they will make a good meaning of their life. Viewers, so far as this kind of a love is concerned, seeds of this are there in some of the older plays that English literature had. For instance, one goes back to comedies of Shakespeare. There was a play, Much Ado About Nothing, where the two lovers, Benedict and Beatrice, they were of equal mental caliber, and they were in the second rung of the social ladder, and yet they forged ahead and they attracted all the attention. Maybe there is a kind of replication of those characters in this play, because here also the lover and the beloved, they talk with each other, and so at some point of time they talk out each other. One is talking more than the other, but the other soon catches up. So that's one, we can trace it back to there. But then these people seem to be much more firm in their views regarding values of life and values of matrimony. And this is what these people are going to discuss, as if they are discussing a business transaction. Now there was no business transaction earlier, but now in the modern world, supposedly modern world in the 17th century, when the country has emerged out of kingship and has assumed a kind of republican parliamentary democracy, at that point of time citizens are giving a chance to one another to discuss things openly on the stage. The husband will come forward and make a statement about marriage. The woman will then meet him on an equal level, and she will make a statement about marriage. Then they will discuss each other's conditions. Then they'll try to bend each other, and finally there will be some kind of a resolution, and that resolution is applicable to both. That is acceptable to both. And that famous scene in this play between Millamant and Mirabel, that actually tells us what love in the modern context is to be. There should be set conditions. There should be conditions that should be clearly demarcated, clearly stressed in the beginning itself. Well, for instance, when one is married, then one all the time has to prove to the society at large that one is greatly in love with the woman. So all the time, as if love is being put on the sleeve of the lover, and the woman is supposed to behave also in a manner that she is the happiest person in the world. Is that true? Mostly it is not true, because social pressures always work on the man and the woman, and they are in fact showing off. And if they show off excessive love for each other, it means that there is something wrong somewhere. Why should they show it? It only means that they are overworking in order to tell the whole world that they are the happiest of the lot. So this is one condition that Millamant makes to her husband when she is going to marry him. He says, "Never ever show your excessive love to me. Leave me alone, as if we are strangers, and we meet each other afresh. And do not call me by any endearment. You always call me in very simple terms." And the man says, okay, I'll accept this, but I also have conditions, and then he lays down his conditions. His conditions is that the woman should not be anarchic. The woman would stick to her anarchy. He says, okay, if you stick to anarchy, then I'll keep on asking you. He doesn't say I reject it. He straight away says, oh, you be anarchic, but then I'll tell you, I expect you to be disciplined. And of course, what he means and what she means is that even if they don't agree on the stage, they have at least made clear to each other their options for a happy kind of resolution in marriage, in matrimony. So this is the kind of value, and they will not marry according to the social status. They will marry as individuals. They will not think of dowry in that sense. Even if they accept dowry and they expect dowry, that will be just behind the scenes. But so far as their mutuality is concerned, in that dowry is not going to be the deciding authority. And you know that Mirabel would have married somebody 3 or 4 times richer than her, than him, but he didn't bother about that. In fact, he made a fool of that woman, and that woman became a sworn enemy for him. But then he didn't bother. At the same time, he knows, he's sure of himself, and he knows, that in marriage, what is going to last is mutuality. What is going to last is the respect for each other, and the kind of wit. The word wit is very important in this play. That if you have the capacity to use language in such a manner that you are able to respect somebody else, and you can defend your own self also with the help of language, with the help of your behavior, then of course some kind of a parity between the two parties is maintained, and that parity will see to it that people remain happy for a longer period than otherwise. So this kind of a debate about the man and the woman just before marriage didn't happen on the stage, but this playwright made these characters talk on the stage about their expectations from each other, and this play, for this reason, is supposed to be a hallmark. It is something that makes clear to the audience that in matrimony, young people have these expectations, and those expectations are not swayed by the circumstance, swayed by the atmosphere. These expectations actually are the expectations of the individual. The individual person wants, that he or she doesn't, show off, is not artificial, but is genuine and serious about respect and about, love towards each other. So can one say that it's a modern kind of love? It's a love, where the old idea of love, the woman would be, the angel, and the man would be the master. Would that parameter work in the modern times? The answer is a clear no. There's nothing like a master in the form of a male. There's nothing like an angel in the form of a woman. Both of them are human beings. Both of them have thinking minds. Both of them have social responsibilities. Both of them have, a kind of respect for each other. And if things become difficult, then they have the reason and the mind to sort them out. So this is the modern kind of a love. So love is not supposed to be any kind of matter for poetry, matter for emotional projection. Love is a fact of life, is a hard fact of life. It is some kind of a transaction. It's some kind of a business transaction where you can discuss openly, you can disagree, and through disagreement you can in fact express your sense of equality. So all these things are there, which means that even within patriarchy, if patriarchy is allowed to exist, even within patriarchy, so far as wit and humor are concerned, you can create an island, you can create a zone of peace and a zone of harmony, and that harmony and peace are at the level of individual participation in the matrimonial relationship. So that's what the modern love is, and this lasts, I think, even today. This kind of a model of love was there in the 18th century, in the 19th century. If lovers failed to attain a kind of harmony in marriage, then they were able to do so because they were not modern enough. So in a way, the parameter had been settled in the 17th century itself. The play was performed in 1700, this is the turn of the century. But then this has remained that kind of a dream till the modern times. In fact, there is another play by Bernard Shaw in the 20th century, Man and Superman, and one or two more plays where Bernard Shaw also creates characters who talk like these people. So we have a tradition in Shakespeare, Benedict and Beatrice. We also have these two people, Mirabel and Millamant, and then we have Shaw's play, Man and Superman. So in all these plays, the man and the woman come forward, they talk frankly, honestly. Frankly doesn't mean that one has to be, crude. It only means that the person is equipped with a mind, and when one is using one's mind to understand things, then some kind of a equality and equation is established. So love is redefined in this play. Marriage also is redefined in the play. Love and marriage, so far as this play is concerned, are inseparable. Never ever love if there is never ever marry if there is no love. Marriage should not be just a matter of exchanging money and privilege. Privilege has its own role to play in life, but then when it comes to marriage, then dowry takes the back seat. The important thing is the mutual liking, and since that is not happening, it's because of this that most of the characters generally live their name, that they are all Feyenols, that they are all willful people, they are all witwoud. They will never become truly witty, just because love is missing in their case. And here also, love was not there in the beginning in the form in which it emerged later. It was worked out. It was achieved with a great struggle. So human beings individually have to struggle a lot to achieve a state in which love can be fulfilled. So love is to be redefined. Love is a rational matter. Love is not simply an emotional matter. And at the same time, love, elongated love, expanded love, in the breadth of marriage, it is that which is going to make the marriage successful. Otherwise, marriages are going to break, as they break here most of the time. There are people who have had 1 affair, 2 affairs, 3 affairs, but they don't last because the actual genuine love was missing from the scene in the case of those people. The last point that I make about this particular text, and after that I'll raise some general questions. The last point I make is that this play occurs on the stage as a kind of a game. People come, they enjoy, they meet others, they gossip, they scheme against others, and in that scheme and gossip, they realize that life is not all that simple, and then they become serious. So life is a game. Let's go and play it. Let's go and meet other people. Let's disagree with them. We allow them to hatch a conspiracy against us. We also allow we also hatch conspiracies against them. And when these two kinds of conspiracies, these two sets of conspiracies, when they clash, then of course somewhere a spark is there, somewhere a ray of light is there, and that light will make clear the entire difficult scene to us, and by using our mind further, we will be able to find a solution to it. So it's a game and it's a serious business. So take life like that. After all, we are discussing comedy. We are discussing restoration comedy, and this is one of the best examples of restoration comedy. In this comedy, life is given, life is to be accepted, life is to be made better with the help of genuineness and playfulness. So be genuine, be honest, be serious, at the same time be playful. And when you are playful, when you enjoy, when you play it as a game, then of course that game creates a condition in which we understand one another better. If we are all the time behaving as lawyers, I don't mean any disrespect to lawyers, when all the time we try to quote the book, try to quote morality, try to quote principles, then of course no marriage can succeed. Marriage is a business of fun. So try to have fun, try to have pleasure, try to play. And within the play, when structures are brought into question, there you lighten your entire concern and behave as human beings, behave as friends, and then you will know that life has actually become a game, and a serious game at that, and that people will start enjoying it. So this is the message that this play gives. It doesn't push anything under the carpet. In fact, it allows everything to come on the stage in front of us, so that we can find out and study the differences, and then we come to the conclusion that after all, we as human beings equipped with reason in life, we can definitely succeed. So this is the viewers, this is the message that the play works out, not that it gives, not that it conveys. This is the message that it works out. People are not changed in the play. Mirabel and Millamant also have reached a solution, but then there are many more contentions that will emerge as they grow up further. When they are middle-aged, then maybe there will be more issues. But then one knows that they being intelligent and they being genuine people, they will be able to solve those problems then when they arise. So this kind of a hope is there, and it is this hope, this constructive idea and paradigm that is going to make this play a great success in terms of finding answers to problems of life. Now, in the spirit of concluding the play, I'll be quoting one or two lines from this writer as to what he expected from art, what he expected from literature. Because when we read this literary piece, then we realize that the writer is consciously talking about certain things. Which are those things he is talking about? What is his belief, when he writes a play like this? So I'm sharing with you one or two points of thought that this person expressed about art. For instance, he talked about humors that are there in life. Humors means some elements in our life that determine our attitude, that determine our temperament. So maybe I'm a person who has the humor of seriousness. There is another person who has the humor of not very serious kind, but who is superficial and who is casual. That kind of humor is there. Of course, I'm not talking about those earlier humors which Ben Jonson used in his plays. In this context, he is using humor in this. I'll read out particularly. He talks about a humor which is splenetic and peevish. Splenetic and peevish, angry. If somebody is angry by nature, then that is a kind of humor. That is one's nature. He calls it peevish humor. It should have a satirical wit. So if such a person is there, then he will use satire. You would have seen that angry people do not laugh. Angry people always use satire, and through satire they attack others. Now, one good thing about satire is that the speaker always remains focused on his expectations about others. So if you are talking to an angry man, be sure that you can't twist his words. The angry man means each and every word that one says. So he notices this, and if he has to think of a character who is angry at heart, who is peevish at heart, who is easy to annoy, then that person will be generally sarcastic. So he knows it, and if he knows it, then he can present him as a character which is a living character on stage. And he says they will have a satirical wit. And then he talks about another humor. That humor is jolly and sanguine humor, should have a facetious wit. So he brings in the word wit there. Humor is the inner quality that you have, but wit is that quality which the mind creates for the humor to be expressed. So you have wit, you also have humor. Humor is inborn, humor is something that you start with, but then when you face life, then you express your humor through wit, through the mental faculty. So that mental faculty is wit, and the humor is the temperament that one has. And one can see, that this humor is working in the case of all these people in this play. They are human beings finished right in the beginning, but when they interact with one another, then they become angry, they become facile, they become irresponsible, they become riotous, they become noisy, and that thing expresses their humor in that particular way. So friends, then he goes about the nature in human beings, that nature which controls both wit and humor, and these two things finally combine in order to make the human being communicative to others. And then he uses another word called alloy of judgment. Alloy means a kind of mixture of judgment. So people judge, and then they judge in such a manner that two or three things combine, and then the final human being comes out. So he's talking about these characters in a comedy. In the comedy, the characters work in an actual situation, and when they work in that actual situation, then they show themselves for the audience as people who will easily be identified with. So all of us have our combination of wit and our inner intelligence. Everybody else also is the same across the stage. I'm an actor, let's say, and then I'm enacting my role, but then I'm appealing to that combination which is there in the audience in the context of wit and humor. So the writer was very conscious about what he was doing. He was presenting human nature there. He was also talking about the atmosphere of the time in which he lived, and he commented on it. And I think he's a writer who is arguing for harmony. He's writing for the cause of happiness and fulfillment, and it is for this, that he's a very successful comic writer. So with these comments, if you like to say something.
So we are although very short of time over here, but I would say yes, sometimes through comedy we try to understand and we try to understand the different perspectives of life, and here through this play we have tried to understand about how the marriages could be survived with the help of fun or with the help of joy, or by creating the wit in between. So this should be inculcated in the present context also, where we see lots of divorce cases running on the path. So I believe that if this kind of thing is implemented, of course we can have a successful life. So with this note, we take your leave. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for giving us a productive session. Dear friends, we would be meeting again very soon and would be discussing on one another topic. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.